I have a question for you. First part of the question: have you ever played Dragon Age?
Yes,
Nice.
Origins.
Dragon Age. Okay, nice. That's one of my favorite games. Um, do you remember how there's the phenomenon that characters can get hardened? You know, like Alistair, I think the
Oh yeah,
right,
yes. Yeah, you break his heart and then he becomes a cold motherfucker.
right, and it's a choice. So for people who haven't played the game, there's like a branching paths about how the character develops, and it can there's kind of like a light version and a darker version. So I want to know. So I think that I love that. I love that as just an aspect of a game that like the actual character changes based on the path. It's not just like
Great
good or bad ending.
storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. God, I want to fuck. I'm just gonna replay it soon. I think. But what's Dark Visa? So if something changes and we get the hardened visa, however many years or something like that.
Hmm.
Not necessarily like what would precipitate that, but like what would be the change if that's if it's even possible.
Oh,
You know.
yeah. I have no. I have a very very clear image of the visa that I'm not, right. And
Yeah.
so friendly ambitious nerd is a very pro-social frame, but it's actually, again, I don't include this in the messaging and I don't talk about it in these terms, especially because some people will interpret it in a negative way. But like, it's a dangerous book. And I say danger as in like, a chainsaw is dangerous, right? Like
Mm.
it's powerful. It's an invitation to people to become more powerful. And I think, like what you're asking is kind of like it's like the Star Wars question of like the dark side versus the light,
Yeah.
right? And I think in so I have a thread about this about like if you strip away very cartoony ideas of heroes and villains, right? If you strip away the I want to take over the world or like I want to save the world, like that kind of simplistic thing, I think the core difference between a hero and a villain in stories is how they feel about the people, and the people meaning society in general, humanity in general. The hero tries to help the people, right? And
Mm.
the villain sees the people as they cannot be saved and you should just exploit them, or maybe maybe the villain will say I'm trying to save the people, but it's from a frame of reference of the people can't think for themselves, they can't make their own decisions, I will decide for them, right?
Yeah.
Like Hydra claims that their motivation is we believe that humanity cannot be entrusted with its own freedom because it will make stupid decisions, and so for the security of the human species, we have to be tyrannical and whatever. So Dark Visa would be, fuck it. There's no point trying to encourage people to be better. I just want to make as much money as possible, and then use that to kind of accumulate resources, accumulate power, and use it for. So like one of the things I would do is I can make a lot more money by changing my messaging. So I'm a marketing guy and I understand marketing psychology.
Mm-hmm.
I could make my Twitter account like 10 times bigger in a matter of months if I wanted to, just by picking fights in the culture wars, right? Quote tweeting people for doing stupid shit,
Right.
and find people to attack people every day,
Yeah.
and be like this glorious,
Wait.
guy who is kind of beating down on weakness, finding weakness and beating it up, right? And
Yeah.
like righteous anger, and inspire people to kind of get involved in a holy war, right? Like
Yeah.
I would define a villain, right? Find people to blame in society, right? And yeah, I will grow my following like crazy. I will make a ton of money. And I will be miserable. That's the thing.
Uh
That's the
huh.
tragic thing about the dark side is, so I have at times contemplated going dark in little ways because you get to win all the fights by playing dirty.
Uh huh.
But the tragedy of the dark side is that it's the path without friends, because it's the path of power, is might is right, right? And so you can't trust that any of your underlings are your friends, because all they respect is your power, and they will seek, the moment you die, like they will rip apart your kingdom to shreds, and they will have like a war of succession or whatever,
You're right.
right? And yeah, that would be me, kind of. So there are multiple reasons why I don't do it, and part of it is that I think even if I win, I lose. In that sense, it's like even if so what? Like what? I get rich, and then what? Like spend money on consumer goods. What's the point? Like, it's the world is a fuck. It's one of my people don't realize how, and partially it's my fault because it's my messaging is so friendly and kind, but people don't typically realize how much anger I have, I guess, at the way the world is. But the thing is, if you get angry at the world for the way it is, and you express that anger in, kind of fuck the world, kind of angry diatribes, you end up incentivizing other people to be angry around you, and then you get surrounded by other angry people, and then that just becomes this feedback loop of chaos. So it's like, it's really, you have to focus on, in my opinion, you have to focus on what you want to see more of, and then you have to be you have to be kind of you have to nurture and nourish good things, in my opinion. And yeah, it's an interesting thing to explore from like a storytelling perspective. Like if you were to write like fan fiction where Visa goes dark,
Yeah.
what would make that happen? I guess there would have to be, the first thing as a storyteller, the first thing that my brain says is kill his wife.
That was my thought.
The most
Yeah.
cliche
Right.
kind of storytelling, and it's a sexist trope, right? Like a kind of. I think there's even a TV tropes page that's like the wife in the refrigerator or something like this.
God.
Love interest.
Yeah.
What are the love interest? And but even then, I don't know. I would have to be, you have to endure enough hardship and grief and pain that it makes you give up on goodness in the world, right? And I think I was sufficiently radicalized by authors and musicians and artists, and sometimes people say things like, I'm alone in the world, nobody loves me, nothing matters, fuck everything. And I've gone pretty close to that, but the kind of like the last bit of light in the darkest recesses of my mind is that there have always been artists, there have always been street musicians, right? There have always been authors, people who make poetry and music, even during like the Holocaust in the concentration camps, there were people making music. And as long as that has been the case, I consider myself one of them. I consider those people my family. Like they have been trying, like it's the musicians on the Titanic again, right? As long as there are musicians on the Titanic, those are my people, and those are the people that I want to kind of cherish and honor and support. And it's such a beautiful rebellion against the notion of an uncaring universe. Like as long as people who care, as long as there are, like Mr. Rogers existed, right, at some point, and as long as there have been such people in the world, I want to be on their team, because I just do, I guess. I mean, maybe I'm lucky, maybe it's like neurological at some level, or maybe I was just indoctrinated from really young to be an idealistic kind of dude. Just reading about every attempt at some kind of tyrannical conquest and how it just never lasts. Like it just seems to me that if you read enough history and you just have a broad enough view of the world, it's like, Ray Bradbury has a quote that's like, at the end of everything, you'll see that at the end of your life, you'll see that love was the answer to everything. That's a Ray Bradbury quote. Bertrand Russell has something similar about, it's when he talked about like three things, like the joy of inquiry, trying to make the world less hostile for people, and also about falling in love, and just maybe it's just the good guys have better PR. There isn't the pleasure of power in that controlling sense. I find it kind of boring. I find it kind of unimaginative, and it's just I don't see myself excited to wake up in the morning and kind of exert power over other people and kind of
right.
There's some element of uncertainty in it. It's like part of the fun of life is surprise, right? How are people going to surprise you in good ways? And I guess if like maybe the dark side empower people. They get pleasure from kind of like a sick pleasure from toying with people to see how they respond. But like the range of responses people have from being toyed with is not that broad. You know, it's like people, yeah, I don't know. That's a bit, it's a little bit too in the weeds on that, but
This is why we
yeah,
get. This is
you
why
know,
we get the Joker saying.
when you have, I think in my frame, it's like once you have hardened, you have kind of died in a sense. You know, a part of you has died, and that's just like, I almost think of choosing to be soft. You know, I would say my biggest influence is Hayley Williams from Paramore, and she released an album called Petals for Armor, and it's just this radical idea of like, even after the world has kicked you in the gut, punched you in the face, slapped you around, and you just kind of stand up again and said, "Fuck it, I don't care. I still want love, and I still want to love others, and I will wear petals for armor." Right? Like I will be soft in a hard world. Like I think that's just, it's fucking cool.